All right, everybody, we are live. That's right, we're live on this wild card weekend. It's going to be cold, weather's going to be shitty, but the games are going to be played, guys. It's going to be a lot of snow in Buffalo. There's going to be cold weather in Kansas City, and a whole host of other games going on today. So I'm going to get this podcast out of the way early. A little 7:30 chit chat with you guys. My partner E Dub seems to be out of commission for a while. I don't know what's going on with him. You would have thought that he broke his leg. I guess every time, I don't know what's going on here, but I know he's at home playing the good husband. Forgot to hit the Facebook Live app. Here we go. All right, Facebook. We are live on Facebook. We're live on YouTube, and we're live on your Saturday morning. Going to get some sports talk going before everybody wakes up in the world. Me being an early riser my whole life, I've been up since 5 o'clock in the morning. So had a cup of coffee, had 2 cups of coffee, and now I'm ready to talk some sports before this big day. All right, listen up, guys. The weather's definitely going to be a factor today all over the place. There's going to be snow. There's going to be cold weather. There's going to be rain. It's going to be nuts out there today. But you know what, though? These guys are men. They're football players, and they are going to play their games. I'm going to get into the football a little bit later on. But right now, we're going to talk about a couple of things that went on over the weekend. We got some coaches that were fired. Now, my boy Mike in Seattle is a huge Seattle Seahawks fan, a huge Seattle Mariner fan, and his heart was completely ripped out of his body when the Washington Huskies lost in the championship game the other night to the champions of the world. And I hate to say it like this, but yes, Michigan is the champion. Now, what do you think Michigan's going to do at this point with Jim Harbaugh? Now, Jim Harbaugh, they're talking about Jim Harbaugh leaving and coming to the NFL. Tried that. I think he lost to his brother in the Super Bowl a couple of years ago. But anyway, he's probably going to want to make a return to the NFL. I don't know. After winning a national championship with Michigan, you're going to come to the NFL? I don't know, Jim. I think it's time. You should just like kind of stick around in college and see where that goes. Or come coach the Jets and the Giants. I'm just kidding. We need a coach over there with the Jets because I can't stand Robert Saleh. But we're going to get into a bunch of the coaching firings later, who I think should be the coach of the Jets. But today I'm going to talk about a whole bunch of stuff. All right. I saw a funny story this morning. A friend of mine from a long time ago, he grew up with him. He posted a story on, he posted a video on Facebook this morning of a pretty funny story. Dustin Pedroia, baseball player for the Boston Red Sox. Big Papi, baseball player for the Boston Red Sox. Both guys are really good players. They both, put their work in for years and years and years. And I just saw this video this morning that Big Papi never knew that Dustin Pedroia's name was Dustin. I thought that was kind of weird. He always called him Pee Wee. Now, Pee Wee's a good name for him because he's short, right? But 15 years, 1,600 games into playing together. They were at a game, and one of the catchers said, "Hey, what's going on? How you doing, Dustin?" And he said, "I'm doing all right." And Dustin Pedroia walked away, and Big Papi turned around and said, "Yo, man." I said, "What did that guy call you?" He goes, "Dustin." He goes, "Called you Dustin?" He goes, "Yeah, man. That's my fucking name." Guy played 1,600 games together with Dustin Pedroia, and Big Papi never knew his name. I do get it, though, because I guess Big Papi's one of those guys that he probably just calls everybody by a nickname, Pee Wee, Chico, whatever the hell it is. You know what I mean? But he's a big star. So if he wants to call Dustin Pedroia Pee Wee, Dustin Pedroia is a small guy, amazing second baseman, and hopefully he'll go to the Hall of Fame because I really did like watching him play. But yeah, I mean, I thought that was a kind of funny story to start off with, the whole Dustin Pedroia thing. And will he make the Hall of Fame? I sure do hope so. One more thing I want to talk about. I always tell you about my son Jack and how he's doing the culinary thing with the Culinary Institute and stuff like that. I was talking to my son Aiden the other day. Now, my son Aiden is, kind of at a crossroad with his college career right now. He kind of and sort of knows what he wants to do, but he's going to get his associate's degree from Dutchess Community College. And after that, he wants to get into the sports field a little bit. So what he told me the other day was he wants to start doing a blog. Now, eventually that's the field that he wants to get into. He wants to be a, he wants to be what do you call it? He wants to be a sports announcer. He wants to be an analyst. He wants to do one of those things. But he doesn't right now, I don't think that he has it. He has the gumption. He has like the, he's not I guess, confident enough to get on there, the radio, and talk. But he wants to be one of the behind the scenes guys. So, obviously we do this Murph and Edub sports show here. I told him today he's going to blog one of the games, preferably the Kansas City Miami game. He's going to write down his notes. He's going to, do whatever it takes to become an analyst in the NFL or sports world. He's going to take some notes. And next week, when we do the next Murph and E-Dub show, well, right now it's just a Murph show, E-Dubs. I don't know where you at, kid. But yeah, he's going to blog one of the games and he's going to write down some notes. And I'll do it next week when I'm breaking down all the games. And talk exactly what he has written down and see how good he is. Listen, my son knows a lot about sports. He is a plethora of knowledge, and he's just like me. Both of his teams, the Mets and the Jets. I don't know what's happening with our baseball teams and our football teams, but normally it's like, all right, football season's over. Let's go into baseball season. I'm not even looking forward to baseball season, guys. Baseball season right now, as it looks, is going to be a hard season to watch as well. So let's get into a couple of these coaches that were fired over the weekend because they have that thing called Black Monday. Now, Black Monday in the NFL is the day when if you had a bad season or if your team had a bad season or you just want to part ways with your coach, that is the day to do it. Now, there was some pretty big firings over the weekend. Now, Vegas was the first one to do it. Now, Vegas is interesting to me because Vegas, they fired Josh McDaniel and the GM. So I think kind of like when you do something like that, if you fire the GM, I guess the coach has to go. And I think vice versa. If you fire the coach, the GM has to go. Because if you're going to bring a new GM in here, he's going to want to bring his own coach. He's going to want to bring his own guys. And, ultimately, it's his decision. So I think that normally when you would fire the head coach, and Josh McDaniel was with Houston. He was the coordinator with the Patriots. He really just hasn't gotten it going, I guess. And Antonio Pierce took over for him and did a pretty good job. But from what I understand, Las Vegas sees Antonio Pierce as a big hype guy. The guys love him. He hasn't been a head coach in the NFL. He's coached maybe the 5-6 games in the NFL, when McDaniels got fired, Antonio Pierce took over, and he did a pretty damn good job. But falling short of being the head coach of this football team, I think he's probably going to fit in nicely as a defensive coordinator, maybe get a head coaching job in the future or something. But yeah, I think Vegas might have the coach of the future in Antonio Pierce, but I think they're going to have to hire somebody else as far as head coach because Antonio Pierce, defensive guy, I think you get him going with that for a little while. Then maybe in the future, coaching might be in the cards for you, Antonio Pierce. Carolina fired Frank Reich. Frank Reich's had a rough road as a head coach. Frank Reich was fired by by the Carolina Panthers. Now, Frank Reich he's been a coach for 5 years. He coached the Colts for 5 years, and he was fired. Then he got the job coaching Carolina this year. Fired in back-to-back years with a record of 41 and 43. Now, I don't know if anybody knows anything about Frank Reich. Frank Reich was an okay quarterback in the NFL. He's also 62 years old, so I would say he's a young coach, but he's really not. He's 62 years old, and he's a head coach or fired head coach in the NFL right now. Sure, he's going to try and find a job somewhere else, but you have a 41 and 43 record. You got fired by the Colts, and then the year after that, you got fired by the Panthers. The Panthers really didn't have much going on. Their roster isn't full of superstars, I guess you would say. But, they have a couple of guys. They got that quarterback there. I think it was Bryce Young. Kind of said something about him last year. I didn't think he was going to be that good. But he was fired. Frank Reich. Chargers. Brandon Staley. Fired. Tom Telesco. Fired. GM and coach go hand in hand. They're gone. Atlanta. Finally. And this is something that drove my son insane the whole season. Because the fact of the matter that this guy came out at the end of the game and complained that the New Orleans Saints were running the score up on him. This guy had a player on his football team this year, a running back, and didn't utilize him correctly. The guy is a superstar. The guy's a stud. Last game of the season, they utilized him correctly. He had 7 receptions. He was running the ball all over the place. But this guy, Arthur Smith, was a terrible coach. He had to go, man. He had to go. Atlanta's a team that cannot get out of their own way. They had the same problem a lot of teams have in the NFL. They have no quarterback. I went to the Jets-Atlanta game a couple of weeks ago, and Atlanta was abysmal. The Jets were even worse. I'm going to get on the Jets in a couple of minutes and where I think they should go. But this was a terrible football season for the New York Jets. Atlanta fired Arthur Smith. Washington Commanders. Ron Rivera, gone, fired. Ron Rivera has been a coach in the NFL since 2011. Obviously, he's been a head coach since 2011. He's had a lot of coordinator jobs, this, that, and the other thing. He is a defensive-minded coach as opposed to Frank Reich, who's an offensive-minded coach. But I think Ron Rivera's record, will tell is a little bit better. Well, actually, not really. They're both around the same way. I mean, Ron Rivera's coached a couple more games, but Frank Reich's 41-43, and Ron Rivera is 102-103. But Ron Rivera, I think, has kind of like a better name, I guess, in the NFL. So maybe he's all these guys are going to get jobs, except maybe Arthur Smith. He doesn't deserve a job. I hate to say that nobody deserves a job, but Arthur Smith didn't really show too much over there in Atlanta. Now, Mike Vrabel. Now, I want to talk about Mike Vrabel for a second. Mike Vrabel is a really, really good football coach. And I say this because that Tennessee Titans football team over the last couple of years, I don't think they were a good football team. I mean, I know they had Derrick Henry. I mean, I know he made Ryan Tannehill into a quarterback that actually played quarterback in the NFL. He made the Tennessee Titans a relevant football team for a couple of years. He went to the AFC Championship. What year was that? He lost in the AFC Championship in 19. He lost in the wild card round to the Ravens in 20, and he lost to Cincinnati in the divisional round in 2021. That tells me that there's a guy that's a good coach and just didn't have a good team around him. I don't know what the big draw is with Tennessee for all those years, but I just didn't see. They were a boring football team to watch. But Ron Rivera, head coach, you know what? Didn't do a bad job. I'm talking about Mike Vrabel. I just said Ron Rivera. I'm sorry. It's a little early for me today, guys. But yeah, I'm talking about Mike Vrabel. Mike Vrabel was a linebacker in the NFL for the New England Patriots. Now, this is my next one here. Bill Belichick. Now, Bill Belichick. Everybody knows Bill Belichick. Bill Belichick is not the winningest coach. Don Shula has some more wins than him, but 6 Super Bowls, 9 Super Bowl appearances, 31 playoff wins, 333 total wins. Bill Belichick might be a douche, but he is the greatest coach of all time. Now, I don't, under any circumstances, want to hear all the haters out there. Now, you guys know me on the show. I am a New York Jets fan. I am supposed to hate Bill Belichick. I'm supposed to hate Tom Brady. Don't like Bill Belichick, and you guys know I love Tom Brady. Bill Belichick, hated man, hates the Jets. Beat the Jets 15 games in a row. 15 games in a row. That's almost 8 years. The Jets did not beat the New England Patriots. But you have to give it to Bill Belichick. Bill Belichick is the greatest coach of all time. And I don't want to hear, I'm going to bring up this optic as a matter of fact here for a second. I think I took a picture of it before, but they're saying that Bill Belichick is nothing without Tom Brady. Listen, Bill Belichick drafted Tom Brady. Late. You all know the Tom Brady story. Somebody could have grabbed Tom Brady in the first round. Somebody could have grabbed Tom Brady in the second round. No, Bill Belichick grabbed Tom Brady. Okay, so to say that Bill Belichick is nothing without Tom Brady, he picked him. So you know what, though? He knew the quarterback he wanted. He jumped in bed with him, and they rode off into the sunset. Tom Brady retired now. Bill Belichick just left the Patriots. I think he's going to go somewhere else. I'd love for him to land at the Jets, but, I don't know how that's going to happen. But Bill Belichick is one of the greatest coaches ever. 24 years with the New England Patriots. He left the Jets at the altar 24 years ago. That's when Al Groh became our quarterback. Another time the Jets could not get out of their own way. Being a Jets fan, I harbor that. You know what, though? Who knows if the Jets would have been the same team as the Patriots? You don't know that. They could have, and they could not have. But being that they're the Jets and they couldn't get out of their own way ever, the Jets would have turned Bill Belichick into probably a 2-year coach, and Belichick may not have ever won a Super Bowl. So Bill Belichick went to the right organization with Robert Kraft. He went to the right organization that spread the money around like Tom Brady, probably taking a couple million under the table, but on paper, his salary looked great. That New England Patriots organization won 6 Super Bowls, was at 9. Robert Kraft went and got a hand job, and he's one of the most successful owners in professional sports. Now he's down a coach. What do you think he's going to do? We know what he did. He hired their linebacker coach. Now, I was talking to somebody yesterday who's a pretty big Patriots fan and knows all his Boston sports, and said that's a good hire. It's like, that's the guy that was in the waiting. That's the guy that was in the making to be the head coach. I thought they would have brought in Mike Vrabel. I mean, Mike Vrabel didn't show he was a terrible coach. Like I said, had a good record, lost in the AFC Championship, lost to the Ravens, lost to the Cincinnati with a mediocre football team. But I do have to say, I really did think that Mike Vrabel was going to go back to the New England Patriots. As a matter of fact, I saw a tandem of Mike Vrabel and Josh McDaniel, although I don't know which one of them would have taken the back seat to being the head coach and one coordinator. But you got two guys there that are head coaches now, so that are probably not going backwards. But Mike Vrabel, I guess, in the Patriots organization, he played at a high level for Bill Belichick. But Mike Vrabel is not going to be the coach of the Patriots. Your linebacker coach is. Bill Belichick is very interesting. Now, if you're an NFL football team right now and you just fired your coach, or you're not happy with your coach, or your coach is still sitting in your locker room telling you that Aaron Rodgers is going to be the quarterback next year, Aaron Rodgers could say whatever he wants. I'll get into the Pat McAfee stuff in a couple of minutes. You could say that you could say anything you want about this guy, Robert Saleh, Woody Johnson. Robert Saleh, I don't know if he's not a good coach, or maybe he's just not the right coach for the New York Jets. Now, we all know about the New York Jets having top-notch defense. We all know about the Zach Wilson woes. We all know about the dreaded 4 plays in our season over when Aaron Rodgers goes down. We all know about that. To bring a guy like Bill Belichick in here, listen, I got no loyalty to Robert Saleh. I have no loyalty to the offensive coordinator, defensive coordinator. I would say, if I were the New York Jets right now, and I know Black Monday was a couple of weeks ago, all the firings happened. I know the playoffs are starting today, but both teams, the Patriots and the Jets, neither one are in the playoffs right now. So why don't you just why don't you call up Robert Saleh and say, listen, Robert, season was over. I know you thought you were okay, but we have a chance to get Bill Belichick. Now, if we get Bill Belichick, we're firing everybody. Now, Bill Belichick's going to bring in his own people. He's going to bring in his own coordinators. He's going to bring in his own everything. So if that being said, if Bill Belichick says yes to a contract with the New York Jets to be the head coach, you're all gone. Robert Saleh, fired. The other guy, fired. I just think that there's something has to change in the locker. Something was lost in that locker room this year. We all know there was infighting with the defense and the offense. The offense was absolutely horrendous. That might have been the worst offensive line I have ever seen on a professional football field. Now, you want to talk about a quarterback in Zach Wilson that needed a little bit of protection. Might have done okay, but he's not going to be a superstar. I have this ongoing conversation with my son all the time who's holding on to the fact that Zach Wilson might one day become a good professional quarterback. I just don't see it. But we didn't get a chance to even see if he could throw the football because the offensive line was absolutely terrible. There was rotating tackles, rotating centers. Everybody, it was an absolutely horrible season the minute Aaron Rodgers went down. Now, who's to say that if Aaron Rodgers didn't hurt himself and blew out his ACL, that he might have blew out his ACL maybe a couple weeks in, or he might have hurt his shoulder, he might have hurt his arm because the offensive line was so terrible. But there's a difference here, guys, ladies and gentlemen, when you're a professional sports, a professional football player, baseball player. Personally, I think there's one or two things. You have Zach Wilson, who showed the offensive line who they were. They showed the offensive line that they sucked because he didn't know how to make decisions. He doesn't know how to be a quarterback in the NFL. He doesn't know how to be a high-level football player. Aaron Rodgers, on the other hand, might have made stuff work. You never know. The offensive line was terrible. Maybe Aaron Rodgers would have zigged instead of zagged. Maybe he wouldn't have stared at the defensive line as they were running at him like a deer in headlights getting ready to get smashed. Aaron Rodgers would have probably made better decisions. But I'm not saying that Aaron Rodgers would have taken this team to the Super Bowl because the offensive line was absolutely horrendous. And if Aaron Rodgers played good, the offensive line would have played as best as they can, and Aaron Rodgers would have been yelling and screaming and fighting with the offensive line this year. I like Aaron Rodgers. He says crazy shit. He's got a weird outlook on stuff, but I like Aaron Rodgers. Why not? Why not get a guy that goes against the grain? Why not the guy that says crazy shit? believes in aliens. Why not? Why not? But this is this guy's. This is this guy's. Listen, everybody's got their own thoughts on things. And I understand this day and age, if you work for an organization, you can't say certain things or you'll get fired, or you can't hurt people's feelings or you'll be fired, or you can't say certain things, you'll be fired. Aaron Rodgers just seems to be the type of guy who really doesn't give a shit. And at the end of the day, I really do think that there's part ownership possibility in the New York Jets with Aaron Rodgers, because why is he still here in this mess? Why? I do have a couple of things that the Jets can do. There's a couple of offensive linemen out there, and there's about 5 of them that have come up on the radar of a lot of these analysts. Now, we got the draft coming up. We got the 10th pick in the draft. I don't know what's going to happen. They got Aaron Rodgers. I don't know if they're going to draft a backup. I don't know if they're going to pick up a backup. I don't know what they're going to do. But at the end of the day, you got an offensive tackle from Penn State, a tackle from Oregon, Notre Dame, Alabama, and you also got Michael Penix laying in wait back there, which I think Michael Penix's stock might have dropped the last couple of weeks. He might have been hurt. He's just up. Maybe what he was up against in that game was just way too much for him. But I think that kid is going to be a pretty good professional quarterback. I'd be all right with getting Michael Penix in the second round if he's still there. But it's a necessity, an absolute necessity for the New York Jets to pick up an offensive lineman in the draft and try to get an offensive lineman through free agency. Because once that offensive line gets sewn up, and once that offensive line starts playing better, that's when the Jets are going to start playing better. It might take, I don't know how long it's going to be. I'm 51 years old. 55 years it's been. 55 years since the New York Jets were in or won or had anything to do with the goddamn Super Bowl. 55 years. Yesterday was 55 years. That's a long time. 13 years without being in the playoffs. Now, look, I get it. You could be a Cleveland fan. You could be a Detroit fan. And listen, both of those teams are in the playoffs right now. It's not going to happen. But dream scenario for the NFL, dream scenario for both of these teams is to watch the Detroit Lions play the Cleveland Browns in the Super Bowl. Not going to happen. But these are two teams that a fan base more deserving than those two to win or actually just be in a Super Bowl. The only one would be the Jets is less deserving. Those two are more deserving than the Jets. So 55 years is really, really hard to swallow because every year it's the same thing. Wait till next year. Wait till next year. Wait till next year. And I'm tired of waiting till next year. So right now, I just got to say that the Jets, I know, listen, Robert Salah, I don't know if you're on the hot seat still. I don't know what's going on. But if you could get a chance to get somebody like Bill Belichick, well, how about this for a second here, guys? Pete Carroll spent a cup of coffee here a bunch of years ago. I can't pinpoint the year he was here, but Pete Carroll spent some time here, and they absolutely, positively did not give that guy a chance. Now, if we know anything about Pete Carroll, we know he's a really good head football coach. He coached USC. He coached the Jets. He was a college coach there for a little while. But once he hooked up with the Seattle Seahawks and literally just took Seattle by storm, Super Bowls, Russell Wilson as your quarterback, you had that team going on all cylinders. And then you just wake up one day and you just part ways with the Seattle Seahawks. Now, if you look at the Seattle Seahawks through the lens of a football, somebody who enjoys watching football, Russell Wilson went to Denver after he left Seattle. Russell Wilson couldn't find himself for the first couple of weeks. I guess finally after a little time, he found out he was a quarterback again, but nothing like he was in Seattle. I mean, if you think about it, Pete Carroll is the reason why Russell Wilson became a great quarterback. Geno Smith was his quarterback last year. Geno Smith was very close to winning an MVP. And that, to me, guys, has everything to do with the fact that Pete Carroll was his football coach. And that's what it is. Now, Pete Carroll, bring him over to the New York Jets. Maybe he could do something with these young guys. Maybe he could do something with that. Aaron Rodgers is going to be the quarterback if he's healthy next year, but maybe he could gather up a young quarterback. Maybe we could hire Pete Carroll back. I don't know if he'd come back, but maybe we draft a quarterback in the first round. You know what? Maybe we draft Michael Penix, and maybe we do get Pete Carroll. Pete Carroll comes in here and transform the Jets offense. and makes them relevant. Because that's what we need, guys. We need somebody to come in here that's going to kick ass. We don't need somebody that's going to stand on the sidelines who is obviously taking orders from somebody else. Robert Salah had that. The Jets had that stupid show over the summer that got us Jet fans so psyched. Robert Salah cursing in the locker room, yucking it up with Aaron Rodgers, talking the offensive line, the defensive line. We're going to be savages. You sucked. You did nothing. You had your balls in your hand the whole year. I watched every single Jets football game this year with my son, and every single game you stood there with that bullshit anger on your face. Now, I don't know if that anger was anger at your football team because they weren't producing for you, or that anger was towards somebody that was whispering in your ear saying, make this play or you're fired. I don't know. It just seems like the guy that was in the locker room and the guy you heard talking and yelling and screaming about how the Jets are going to be the best defense, they're going to be a force to be reckoned with, didn't say a word. Didn't say a word on the sidelines. Just literally stared into space with that pissed off face, letting everybody know that I don't know what the hell is going on with this organization. We had a top-notch defense. We had a top-notch running back, a top-notch wide receiver. That's it. Everything else sucked. Garrett Wilson, I am surprised, and thankfully, that kid didn't go off on more of a tangent about how unhappy he is. And that just shows the character, I guess, of that kid, because he could have easily at any point gone off on a tangent and talked about the Jets organization, talked about Zach Wilson not getting the football. I don't know how many Jets football games you guys have watched this year, but I watched so many games where Garrett Wilson was wide open. Zach Wilson just did not see him. He didn't see open receivers. He didn't make the right call. He'd run right into defensive linemen and get smashed. Pete Carroll and Bill Belichick to bring them over to the New York Jets, although it's not going to happen. Pete Carroll and Bill Belichick coming to the New York Jets will be a change. Will be a change for the better. Will be a change for the coaching staff that we have now that is abysmal. They should be ashamed of themselves. What happened this year on the football field at the New York Jets was embarrassing. I went to the game a couple of weeks ago, and for the only reason I went to that game was so I could stand in the rain and be miserable. This team gives us nothing. We are about to open up today at 3:30 on a playoff, NFL playoffs, where I got to tell you, I think the 49ers are going to win the Super Bowl, but any one of these teams could win the Super Bowl this year, with the exception maybe Tampa Bay. I guess, but there are probably about 8 legit teams that could win the Super Bowl this year. And it's not the Jets. So little advice to the Jets. And again, obviously I'm just, Rich Murphy from Fishkill, and I don't know what the fuck I'm talking about. I just watch the football team, and, this computer and this microphone gives us an opportunity to voice our opinion and whether people agree with us or not. But there's 4 offensive linemen in the draft, guys. Get one of them. Get the kid from Penn State, get the kid from Notre Dame, get the kid from Alabama, or get the kid from Oregon. Please shore up that offensive line and at least give us a fighting chance. Aaron Rodgers is going to be 41 years old next year. Though I think 41 Aaron Rodgers is better than most NFL quarterbacks right now. He's still 41 years old. He's still going to lose a step. You got to get that offensive line going, because Breece Hall behind it. Can you imagine Breece Hall behind an offensive line like, let's say, the Cowboys, or let's say the 49ers? Can you imagine Breece Hall behind a line like that? He would run forever. You would see a 2,000-yard rusher, because all that kid needs is a big hole to open, and everything else is on him, and he makes shit happen once he's in the open field. So Breece Hall and Garrett Wilson, 2 young budding stars. If we have a season next year, like we had this year, those are 2 kids that are going to be really unhappy, and it's going to be back to the goddamn drawing board like it is every single year for the New York Jets. So, that being said, there's a whole bunch of coaches out there that are looking for jobs. Good coaches. Ron Rivera, saying that Bill Belichick might go to the Chargers. You know what, though? Bill Belichick might go to the Chargers. It might be a good spot for him. It's warm weather. He's got a good quarterback there. Although I don't know what happened to Justin Herbert. The kid is 6'6", 220 pounds. Don't know what happened. Their offensive line isn't that good either. And their defense isn't that good. So football is a team sport, guys. Everybody around you has to be doing what they're doing. If you're an amazing quarterback with a shit offensive line, you're not going to go anywhere. If you're a douche, which I think something's going on there in Philadelphia, either Jalen Hurts is hurt or the rumors are right. He's a douche and his offensive line doesn't like him. Although I can't see that these are guys are football players who want to win football games. I don't think that they would take that to the next level, saying that, they're just going to let somebody sack this kid because they were on a pretty good run. But Jalen Hurts being a douche to his team might have a little something to do with the fact that the Philadelphia Eagles are going to be going out in the first round. As a matter of fact, it's going to be a good game. I bet they're happy they're playing Tampa Bay, who was a team that just made it into the playoffs by winning the division. That's about the only team I think Philadelphia really has a chance of beating. And I do think Tampa Bay is probably going to win today and knock them out. Because what happened to the Philadelphia Eagles? The Philadelphia Eagles had such a fall from grace this year that if they lose today, that coach might get fired. There's two coaches today going into the playoffs that if they lose today, they might get fired. Mike McCarthy might get fired. Even though I don't think Dallas is going to lose, Mike McCarthy might be looking for a job if he loses today or tomorrow. These guys are going to be looking for jobs, and they're in the playoffs. Philadelphia Eagles, they have one of the best offensive lines in football as well, and the guy's getting the shit beat out of him. That's why I have to say that something's going on with that kid. I don't know what it is. It's got to be something there. I mean, you're looking at an undefeated Philadelphia Eagles team that at the end of the season, what were they, 11-6? I think they were 11-7. What was it, 18 weeks? But whatever it may be, that's a team right there that had a fall of grace. They were a couple of weeks ago, they were the favorite to win the Super Bowl. Now they're going out in the first round. I hate to say it, but they are absolutely going out in the first round. I want to touch a little bit on what happened the other day with Aaron Rodgers and Pat McAfee. Now, I've just kind of started getting into the Pat McAfee show. Pat McAfee is kind of entertaining. I like him. I guess he was a kicker in the NFL, did some time with the WWE, and he has a pretty entertaining podcast. Although I think that I could do his job if he give me all that stuff too, and all the people to work with and all the right equipment, I could probably do his job too. But anyway, Aaron Rodgers would go on his show every week, as we all know. And Aaron Rodgers would say crazy shit on his show all the time. Pat McAfee and him, I guess, were friends. So I don't know what their relationship was pre-show. But I know they were paying Aaron Rodgers to be on that show. And I'm sure they were paying Aaron Rodgers to be outrageous. Pat McAfee told, so we thought. Obviously, it's not that case anymore because not that he retracted his words. I guess people like to blow things out of proportion. But Aaron Rodgers thought that the Pat McAfee show would be the right time to say Jimmy Kimmel was a pedophile. Now, if you listen to it, the first time it came out of his mouth, he just kind of like, it's kind of like this thing. If Aaron Rodgers, Pat McAfee, and Jimmy Kimmel were standing in a room together, and Pat McAfee and Aaron Rodgers were just having a conversation about whatever, and all of a sudden Aaron Rodgers just turned around and punched Jimmy Kimmel right in the face. Jimmy Kimmel had no idea that it was coming. He went on his show and ripped him. He went on the attack, which is great. Listen, Jimmy Kimmel, you're a comedian. You're supposed to be funny. Be funny. I just don't want any suing to come out of this. But if his name does show up on that list, which the list is going to be bullshit. Everybody wants this list to come out. We could talk about Epstein another time. But I don't know why Aaron Rodgers thought it would be a good idea to just say that Jimmy Kimmel was on that list. Because the next day after that, it started a whole shitstorm. So Aaron Rodgers left. And everything started that Pat McAfee was so mad that he told Aaron Rodgers that he couldn't be on a show anymore. He couldn't believe that he said that. Maybe McAfee and Kimmel are friends. McAfee went off on a big wig on ESPN the other day. So I really don't think it's a fact of the matter that he cares about what's said on his show. Maybe he does. Because once you start talking about Jimmy Kimmel, who is slowly becoming the king of ABC owned by Disney, and ESPN owned by ESPN and Disney. Maybe they didn't want him talking about it anymore. But he did retract yesterday and said that he didn't kick him off the show. Aaron Rodgers will, in fact, be back to the Pat McAfee show. He says that his tenure at the end of the year ends, and he might have some surprise visits on the show. Now, Aaron Rodgers was on the show, what was it? Tuesday, I guess that's when his spot is. And he said, he kind of retracted what he said too. He kind of said that it would be dumb of him to say without any information or without any bearing that Jimmy Kimmel was on Epstein Island. Now, I think it's just a matter of breaking balls with your friends. You know, I might have said something, maybe I'm sitting around talking, breaking balls with my friends. Maybe I turn around and I say something, hey, maybe you were on Epstein Island. So maybe Aaron Rodgers thought it might be funny to say that, but it kind of wound up being a big shitstorm. And I don't know what's going to happen. The Pat McAfee show is obviously moving on. I don't know if Aaron Rodgers is going to be back, but all I know is I would love to get a job working on the Pat McAfee show. Maybe if you see this video, dude, maybe you could hire me. But Pat McAfee show is pretty important, man. And it's, it's this whole Jimmy Kimmel thing and Aaron Rodgers blew up, and now that made Pat McAfee show even bigger now. So even the fact that he made some comments about some ESPN executives the other day, and he still got his job. So I like it. Pat McAfee, keep doing what you're doing, keep saying what you want, but don't retract. Don't retract. I do believe you. I do believe you. I do believe when it was said that you kicked him off the show. I do believe that was lies, because you seem to be pretty straight up guy on your show on ESPN. You say crazy shit, you back it up, So I tend to believe you, but let's keep this in order here. You're going to side with Aaron Rodgers? Not even side with Aaron Rodgers. I just think for your show, it's good to have Aaron Rodgers on. And next year, have Aaron Rodgers on, but have him on after he's winning football games. Because I know I've been saying this for years and years and years, 55 years, 13 seasons, no playoffs. Come on, guys. Give me something. Maybe Pat McAfee could go punch Aaron Rodgers in the face. Now, let's say something about Aaron Rodgers for a second. Now, I like Aaron Rodgers a lot. Maybe a lot of people don't like him. A lot of people think he's arrogant. A lot of people think that he's opinionated. Even his family doesn't like him, which I heard. I mean, that's not too surprising. I mean, maybe he's just a recluse. Maybe he's just a guy. The guy, he's got his own thoughts. He's got his opinions. He's allowed to, right? I mean, this is America, and a lot of people think that his, what he says and what he does is a little out of whack, but he's still human, and guy's a football player and he's got opinions. But I think you're in a world like the NFL, where the NFL is a juggernaut. I think the NFL is going to kind of give Aaron Rodgers a little bit of a leeway with some of the stuff that he says, because it is a juggernaut. No matter what Aaron Rodgers says, people are still going to watch the NFL. But keep saying what you're saying, man. I mean, look, you went away, you did some ayahuasca. You talk about aliens all the time. You talk about weed. You talk about all sorts of stuff that is kind of like against the grain. Keep talking about that stuff, Aaron Rodgers, because it's not going to be too long where a lot of the stuff you talk about this plant medicine and stuff like that, and how it's helping you, and sitting in dark rooms or whatever it may be. It's like a lot of people, maybe 5-10 years from now, are going to look back and say, wow, Aaron Rodgers wasn't that crazy. Some of the shit he said was crazy, but maybe he wasn't that crazy. So Aaron Rodgers, I love you, man. Just keep having an open mind and keep talking about the stuff you're talking about, man. Because look, you're a football player who happens to be a little wacky, and a lot of stuff you say I do agree with, dude. So, and you're my quarterback, and that makes it a lot much better. So, went over Rodgers and McAfee. We went over Bill Belichick. I would love to have Bill Belichick as my head coach. Josh McDaniel, what are you going to do? Frank Reich, what are you going to do? Staley, Arthur Smith, Rivera will get a job. Rivera will definitely get a job. He's been around long enough where he'll get a job. But what are these teams going to do? The other teams. What are these other teams going to do? They need coaches now too. They're even saying that Bill Belichick might go to Atlanta. Why would Bill Belichick go to Atlanta? Why would Bill Belichick go anywhere? Because he's competitive. He's a head coach. That's what he does. He's 71 years old. 71. You would think that somebody at 71 years old would just want to ride off into the sunset. Dude, you got 6 Super Bowls. 6. You coached the greatest quarterback of all time. Whether it was you or whether it was him, it doesn't matter. We can't speculate on that. We can't speculate on the fact that Belichick won all those Super Bowls, and without Brady, he's nothing. We could look at a record. That's fine. 84 wins without Brady, and whatever it may be with Brady. I understand, guys. I understand. Tom Brady was and is a talent that doesn't come around too often, I guess. I mean, look at, you know what? You want to look at the two, who I feel are the two greatest quarterbacks ever. You look at Joe Montana and you look at Tom Brady. These are two quarterbacks that were not taken in the first round. They were not taken in the first round. They did not win the Heisman Trophy. They, as a matter of fact, they had mediocre college careers. So for Bill Belichick and Bill Walsh to look at these two guys and say, yeah, I'm taking a chance on him. Joe Montana was almost an afterthought. Joe Montana got hurt at Notre Dame a lot. He was in and out. But when he was in, he was the king of the comeback. He was the king of the comeback, guys. And maybe that's what Bill Walsh saw. I don't know what Bill Belichick saw in Tom Brady 24 years ago, 25 years ago. But he saw something. Same as Bill Walsh saw in Joe Montana. Joe Montana never lost a Super Bowl, guys. That's the only thing separating him and Tom Brady, maybe in my book, if you want to talk about the two of them. Joe Montana never lost a Super Bowl. But again, these are two guys that were taken late in the draft. Pat Mahomes. Pat Mahomes was, I don't think Pat Mahomes was a first round draft pick. I could be wrong. What's his name over there in Baltimore? He was a late round pick. There were other quarterbacks taken before these guys. There were other quarterbacks taken before Lamar Jackson. What's his name was taken for it? Josh Allen. Not even Josh Allen. Josh Allen's having a good career. What's the other Josh? Exactly. We don't even know his name. Sam Darnold. These are quarterbacks that were taken before Pat Mahomes and Lamar Jackson. Again, you don't know what somebody's going to be. You don't know what they're going to be once they get into the NFL. I get it. But obviously, Bill Belichick saw something in Tom Brady. So I'm a Jets fan, and I'm going to back him up. Stop with the bullshit about Bill Belichick would have been nothing without Tom Brady, because you had him. It worked. It maybe, listen, you know what, though? You could say the same thing about, people say the same thing about Tom Brady. Tom Brady was nothing without Bill Belichick's scheme. I don't know. I don't know what it is, but when you think and you look back in retrospect and you think about the run that New England Patriots team had, the amount of games they won, the amount of playoff games they won playoff games in hot weather, cold weather, whatever it may be, they showed up. And Tom Brady was the leader of that goddamn football team for 20-something years. Went to Tampa Bay and won oh my God, went to Tampa Bay and won at 40 years old. Stop. I hate Bill Belichick. But if he was the Jets coach, you can't hate him. The guy's an asshole. The guy is blunt. The guy never gives the media anything, which I think is great. I love his answers. But if you were the coach of my football team, I would love it. Even though it's not going to happen. But Pete Carroll, Bill Belichick, New York Jets, give these guys a phone call. You want to hurt Robert Saleh's feelings? Or you don't want to hurt his feelings? Who cares? It's a business. It's the NFL. Hurt his feelings. Send Robert Saleh packing. Send the coordinator packing. Send them all packing, man. Because what happened this year was embarrassing. The fucking team gave up on its fans, on its coach, on everybody. They gave up. That was evident weeks into the season. The offense gave up. The defense started to give up about 7 or 8 weeks into the season when they saw that they'd be on the field. 3 plays later, 1, 2, 3, punt, they're back on the field. They'd be on the field, 1, 2, 3, punt, they're back on the field. I'd be pissed too. Something's got to change with the New York Jets, and it's got to change now. Bring in Bill Belichick or Pete Carroll. Fire Robert Saleh, take him to breakfast, chop his head off, and fire him. He has no balls. As a matter of fact, let's go back to that. Let's go back to the Hard Knocks. All he did was kiss Aaron Rodgers' ass that whole time. All he did was kiss his ass. They're relatively the same age, and he just kissed his ass. Robert Salah, not happy with you anymore. You need to go, my man. All right, listen, I'm going to go over some of the games today. We got some really, really good football games this weekend. I am pumped. And like I said at the beginning of the podcast, that weather is going to affect these games big time today. There's going to be a ton of snow in Buffalo. They're saying that this game tonight in Kansas City is going to be one of the coldest games ever played. Now, I remember the game back in the day. Miami was a part of this, I think. AFC Championship. What was it? No, I'm sorry. It was the San Diego Chargers. It was a hot weather team. Going back in the day, I remember watching games back in the day with warm weather teams coming to cold weather places. San Diego going to Cincinnati back in the day. Even Cleveland getting some playoff games. That was cold weather, man. Football is played in the elements. Now, I heard rumblings about them trying to move the game or move games. I don't know why. I don't know if that should be an option. Was it ever an option back in the day? And I think it snowed more back in the day. And I think the weather was a little different back in the day. There was elements. There was 30 degree, 20 degree, 10 degrees. Remember them bringing out the Zamboni or whatever it is and taking all the snow off the field. I mean, lightning. There's been cancellations for lightning. So I don't know if I'm on board with the whole fact that we got to switch venues, because the venue is the venue. And that's it, man. I understand the fans might be uncomfortable, but you know what? Those maniac fans, this is a fucking playoff game. Playoff game. Kansas City is hanging on to whatever they got left. The offensive line in Kansas City is going to get the best quarterback in football killed. And that's the difference right there, ladies and gentlemen, from Zach Wilson and Pat Mahomes. It's a huge difference. Pat Mahomes continues to push on. Tyreek Hill, gone. Went packing. All right, you know what? I don't got Tyreek Hill anymore. I'll find somebody to throw the football to. My offensive line is terrible. I'll run. I'll make my little shortstop shuffle passes. Where's my wide receivers? Who are my wide receivers? He's got no wide receivers. Travis Kelce is dig so deep into Taylor Swift that I don't even think he likes football anymore. He pulled himself out of the football game last week. The coach didn't tell him that. Now, I saw this. He pulled himself. He says, you know what, though? I'm feeling a little weird about this game. What do you mean you're feeling a little weird about this game? I just feel like something's going to happen. I'm Travis Kelce. I was like, I need to be there for the playoffs. What do you think Pat Mahomes had to say about that? You think Pat Mahomes said, all right, Travis, you know what, though? I'll go out there. That's okay, Travis. You don't have to play. I understand what was going on. I understand they were in the playoffs. I understand what was going on. But if you're a Kansas City Chiefs fan, you got to hate Taylor Swift, because it's not right around the time when she started coming around, man, is when Travis Kelce started going from a Hall of Fame tight end to dropping balls, one catch for 10 yards. I don't know. Is he hurt? I don't know. Is his ego hurt maybe? Did Taylor Swift make him sleep on the couch the night before? I don't know. Taylor Swift ruined the Kansas City Chiefs. Now, you want to go so far as to say Taylor Swift ruined the Philadelphia Eagles too? Hey, maybe. Maybe the brother over there is one of the best centers / offensive linemen in the game of football. And Jalen Hurts, he's running for his life. So you know what, though? Is she affecting the family too? I don't know. They do that podcast together. And like I said, Travis Kelce admittedly said, I wasn't playing last week. And I would just say he didn't feel like playing. Now, I was watching the red carpet of the Golden Globe Awards last week. Could you imagine? The Golden Globes were in LA. That's what Travis Kelce was. Travis Kelce was playing football in SoFi Stadium, whatever it is, against the Chargers. And Taylor Swift showed up on that red carpet all by herself. I couldn't imagine the backlash, and rightfully so, if Taylor Swift was walking down that red carpet after the football game was over. It was over. And Travis Kelce being right behind her, holding her hand. Can you imagine the backlash? I don't think he would have been that stupid to do that. But thank God he didn't. But Taylor Swift, you ruined the Kansas City Chiefs. And Pat Mahomes is going to have a conversation with you when this season is over. Because unlike Travis Kelce and all like the, stuff going up there in the booth, you're always looking at, oh, look, she's hanging out with his mom. And oh, wow, look, the family's getting, oh, wow, look, she looks so nervous after he got hit. Football, guys. It's a game of football. And if you remember correctly, Pat Mahomes' wife and Pat Mahomes' brother embarrassed him on Instagram and social media. And he nipped that shit in the bud. I don't know how the conversation went, but you know what, though? Some of the embarrassing things that was done last year and the year before, he nipped it on the bud. I don't know how the conversation went. He probably sat them down and said, listen, if the two of you don't stop this shit, I'm out of here. You're not going for this ride anymore. You got to shut the hell up. And he nipped it in the bud. Travis Kelce, if you want to continue to play football and you want to show something to your fan base today, Travis Kelce, I'm calling you out today. I'm calling Travis Kelce out today. You need to have 10 catches for 150 yards in order for this Kansas City Chiefs football team to move on in the playoffs. Because if you don't, Tua is going to throw all over you on the other side, and you're going to get murdered on defense. I'm not saying that the Dolphins have a good defense. They have a better defense than the Chiefs. If you show any signs of not being there today, you're going to get put on your ass by that Miami defense. Because again, these guys are football players and they know what's in your head. Tonight's game is going to be cold. Tonight's game is Miami at plus 4.5 with the Travis Kelce factor. The cold weather is not going to be a factor, I don't think, for football players. Miami still has to go to New England. They still have to go to Buffalo. They still have to go to these places where they play in cold weather. Stop with the cold weather. Miami is going to win this football game tonight, and I hate it because I'm a Jets fan. Miami is going to win this football game tonight. Miami could go on a Super Bowl run because after that, Pittsburgh or Buffalo, it's going to be, they might meet Baltimore in the championship game. I'll see what happens then, but that's a team, Miami, that you need to look out for. And I am picking the Miami Dolphins to win tonight at plus 4.5. They're going to win the game. They're going to win the game outright. They're going to cover, win the game outright, and Miami's going to move on. Houston and Cleveland. Good story here. Okay, you got Houston Texans, right? Last time these two met up, there was no CJ Stroud. CJ Stroud got knocked in the head, had a concussion, didn't play for 2 weeks. Houston lost 36-22. Cleveland. Now, you want to talk about a team in the Cleveland Browns that's dealt with adversity this year? 2 quarterbacks, one of the best running backs in the NFL, 2 offensive linemen, and a high-level linebacker gone from this football team. Hurt, injured. 2 quarterbacks. And you know who that quarterback is today? Joe Mother effing Flacco. Joe Flacco, the guy a couple of weeks ago that was falling asleep on the sidelines in the fourth quarter after throwing for over 300 yards. Joe Flacco, who played for the Jets for a cup of coffee, I guess you would say. Joe Flacco. Could you imagine if he wins this football game and he goes into Baltimore next week and he beats Baltimore? God. Myles Garrett in that defense, I would be so pumped today trying to get this football game going because I can tell you right now, even though Joe Flacco's dozing off on the sidelines, he is there to win. He is there to win a football game. The Cleveland Browns have never in their history been to a Super Bowl. Been to some playoff games. This is the opportunity of a lifetime for Joe Flacco. No Deshaun Watson. No, what's his name? God, what do you call it? The running back. Out. Offensive lineman. Out. Joe Flacco. Go in today in this football game and beat. It's a home game for them, if I'm not mistaken. Oh, no, I'm sorry. It's a Houston home game. They're in Houston. but it doesn't matter. Cleveland Browns are going to go to Houston, and the Cleveland Browns, on pure adrenaline, on the pure fact that nobody thinks that they're even going to do anything because they lost their entire team. Joe Flacco, go into Houston today and show everybody that you still got something left. Joe Flacco won a Super Bowl with the coach that he might be playing against next week in John Harbaugh. I'm picking the Cleveland Browns to win this football game. They're going to cover at -2.5. I'm picking the Cleveland Browns today to win this game and possibly move on to the next round. All right, we got Cleveland. We got Miami. This is going to be a tough one right here. This is going to be a game where there's going to be 10 inches of snow on the ground, 10 inches to a foot of snow on the ground. You got two cold weather football teams. You got a quarterback in Buffalo who just cannot seem to push past the big one. He couldn't get past Pat Mahomes, although if he has to meet Pat Mahomes this year, I have a feeling he might get past him this year. Although my buddy's a big Pittsburgh Steelers fan. I have a couple of big Pittsburgh Steelers fan friends, and every single one of you want Tomlin gone. Tomlin's a good coach. Just from an outsider looking in, he's doing the same thing that what's his name's doing over there, Robert Saleh's doing, that the Cleveland coach is doing. He's doing the same thing. He's losing players, and he's just pushing through. That's exactly what's happening. Tomlin's got Mason Rudolph as his quarterback. There was, what's his name in the beginning of there? It's a team that's got a good defense and it's got an offense that just doesn't look like they're playing well, but they are. They got two running backs. They got a decent wide receiver. Mason Rudolph has to come through today. It's at +9.5, although I would love to see Buffalo out of the playoffs. I think they're going to win this football game. Although the 9.5 point spread, I think they're going to keep it tight. And I think that Buffalo is going to win the football game outright in that world. But I think in the betting world, 9.5 points is a lot of points to cover in the snow. So I think Pittsburgh covers, and I'm taking Pittsburgh. But Buffalo is going to win this football game. Okay, so that cut Buffalo, Miami, Cleveland coming out of this round, which will bring you to Baltimore, Cleveland, and Miami and Pittsburgh next week. That would be a good, that's going to be another good playoff weekend. This weekend and next weekend, two of the best weekends to watch sports. Let's move over on there to the NFC right now. Now, the NFC, I've been talking a lot of shit about my team, the San Francisco 49ers. I've been pumping them up, and I just know saying that they're going to win the Super Bowl and saying that I jumped on their bandwagon, that's going to bring them down. Although I hope not. I do think it is. But anyway, San Francisco 49ers, in my eyes, are going to win the Super Bowl this year. Although it would be very boring if I saw San Francisco and Baltimore again. Remember the lights went out that long time ago? Yeah, that big asshole quarterback over there in San Francisco. You had Michigan Wolverines, what do you call it, champion, coaching the football team back then. San Francisco is your 1 seed. San Francisco has the best defense. They have the best offense. That offensive line is not going to let anything happen to Brock Purdy. This is next week. They're not going to let anything happen to him. You got Deebo Samuel, and then you got Christian McCaffrey. Now, these are two players that are two of the best players in the league at their position. So even looking at all these teams down here, I'm still picking the 1 seed San Francisco to win the Super Bowl. Well, let's move on to the games that are happening today. I talked about the Philadelphia Eagles. I think the Philadelphia Eagles are going to lose today, and I think they're going to lose ugly. I know it's all about, everybody's talking shit about the Philadelphia Eagles who are undefeated. Now looking at them, they're a goddamn 5 seed, and they're playing an away game in Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay is another team who didn't have a quarterback. They had a decent running back. Their defense played okay. Their offense played okay. But you know what, though? They're a 4 seed. They're playing a home game in the playoffs, and they happen to draw the fall from grace, free-falling Philadelphia Eagles, who I think are going to lose this football game today. And Jalen Hurts is going to be at a crossroads with his career because he's going to blame everybody under the sun, and the coach is going to get fired. Philadelphia is in shambles right now, I think. And I think this free fall that they're on is going to be the downfall of the team. You may not see Philadelphia going forward. Philadelphia might be in such a downfall that they might be right in the Giants' shoes, and the Giants are going to surpass them next year. Philadelphia was in the fucking Super Bowl last year, and now they're going out in the first round. Tampa Bay is playing a home game, and they're at +3. Tampa Bay is going to win this football game. They're going to cover the spread and everything. Tampa Bay wins this football game in Tampa Bay, and they move on. Next game. This is the game that should be circled on your calendar if you are a Detroit Lions fan. Matthew Stafford coming back to Detroit with a chip on his shoulder, with a Super Bowl win on his shoulder, being the coach of the Rams. Matthew Stafford was an unbelievable quarterback. He was a great quarterback in college. He was a really good quarterback once he got to the NFL with Detroit. But Detroit did the same thing to him that they did to Barry Sanders. Now, I'm not comparing the two. Barry Sanders is the greatest football player that ever lived. But they had something, and they didn't do anything for him. Calvin Johnson was on that football team. Calvin Johnson is – a lot of people forget about Calvin Johnson. You want to put top 10 wide receivers of all time? Megatron has to be in that conversation. So you're going to tell me that the Detroit Lions had two of the greatest players ever at their position, and in my eyes, the greatest player ever to play professional football next to Lawrence Taylor and Barry Sanders, never won a Super Bowl, and their last playoff game was, I think, in 92. My boy was on that team, and he walked off that field just destroyed. Went into the next season, retired not too much longer after that. Detroit's a franchise today that has to win this football game. Their defense is a little suspect. They got Jared Goff throwing the ball all over the place. They got a good running game. They got good wide receivers. Their defense is a little suspect, and they're playing against a Rams team with Matthew Stafford, who's going to want to throw the ball all over the place. You cannot let Stafford throw the ball all over the place if you're the Detroit Lions. This is either going to be a really high-scoring game, like 41 to like 35 because of all the offense, or it's going to be a blowout. I'm hoping for the first one. I'm hoping for a good football game to watch because I really would like to see Detroit win, man. But Matthew Stafford going into Detroit today is going to be must-see TV. I want to see how he's going to be received. I want to see how he's going to play. See if Detroit, they still have a chip on their shoulder about him. They're going to just want to beat the shit out of him. Who knows? I'm taking Detroit to win this football game at -3. It's a home game. The Detroit Lions are a team that need to get past the first round in the playoffs. I am taking the Detroit Lions to win this football game over the Los Angeles Rams at -3. Not your grandfathers or not your dads or not, but if this matchup was 20 years ago, Green Bay, Dallas, that's the matchup, man. It was Green Bay, Dallas, and the 49ers. 49ers are so far ahead of both of these football teams. You can't even put them in the same category, I don't think. But Dallas and Green Bay today is a game where Mike McCarthy might be on the hot seat. Green Bay was a team that played mediocre in the beginning. Jordan Love started to show little flashes of something and played well. There's no Brett Favre there. There's no Aaron Rodgers there. There's Jordan Love and this young football team going into Dallas. Dallas is another team. The entire team is on notice right now. Dak Prescott, I think you're a good quarterback. Cowboy fans don't think you're a good quarterback. You got CeeDee Lamb, who is just playing ridiculous. You got a good running game. And if you're not watching CeeDee Lamb, you got Cooks coming out of nowhere catching the long ball. Dallas's offense is playing very well right now. Their offensive line, it was torn up a little bit this year, but they're coming back. I do not, under any circumstances, see the Green Bay Packers beating the Dallas Cowboys today. Green Bay Packers are a +7. That's a touchdown, but I think the Dallas Cowboys are going to cover and win this football game. So I'm taking the Dallas Cowboys at -7. So today going forward, we got the football games. We got Baltimore and San Francisco going to be watching. I got Cleveland, Miami, Pittsburgh, Tampa Bay, Detroit, and Dallas. And that is the picks for your NFL Saturday, NFL Sunday. This weekend is one of the best weekends to watch football, as is next weekend. Enjoy the games. And it's going to be the San Francisco 49ers against the Miami Dolphins in the Super Bowl. And I don't like saying this, but I would love to see Miami win this football game tonight. I really would. Again, I'm not a Miami fan. Being a Jet fan, I should not be saying this, but Kansas City, I don't know. I don't know what you guys are going to do, because Pat Mahomes can't throw the ball and catch the ball too. So unless Pat Mahomes comes out tonight and just decides he wants to really kick somebody's ass, he's really got to have his game going tonight. All right, guys, that is Wild Card Weekend Murfs Quick Hits. It's going to be out on a podcast on Spotify, Apple. It's going to be on YouTube. Don't forget to go to keeptalking365.info. It's going to be on Facebook, and it's going to be all over later on. Got this out of the way early, so give it a listen. Like our show. Go to keeptalking365.info. And the Murph and E-Dubs show will be back really soon. I don't know what's going on with E-Dubs, but he'll be back really soon. And as far as Shooting the Breeze, I did 2 really good Shooting the Breeze episodes last week. Episode 1 on January 2nd. I don't know if you guys want to check that out. I got pretty personal about some of the stuff that I've been going through with some of the struggles I've been going through mentally and shit, but I'm good. But check out Shooting the Breeze and the Murph and E-Dub show. And always keep talking 365 and enjoy your day. Enjoy your day, Facebook.